Hey there YouTube, Doc's Motorcycle Service. Rawr, 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 rawr. Welcome back to the backyard. Come on in, YouTube. Alright, YouTube, so me and Linda are back fresh from Sturgis. And I want to say that we had a pretty good time.
It was fun. It was a really good time.
It was our first time there. I'm always a bit apprehensive about going somewhere large the first time by myself or having not been there. I enjoy going with people who have been there before. And the folks that we rode out with, they've done it a couple of times. They kind of do it on the cheap, which allows you more money while you're there. And it went pretty good. So knowing that I like to share information with you guys, I thought we would sit down while it was kind of fresh in our mind and kind of give you an idea of what we did, why we did it, how it worked out, and what we learned about the trip. You're going to have to forgive us. We brought back a lot of souvenirs, but we also brought back a cold. So if we're hacking through this thing, you're just going to have to deal with it a little bit. There's several areas to go over. Now, we did trailer our bike. Don't judge me. Don't judge us. I was prepared. We were prepared to ride it, but yeah, stop. but at the end, well, not at the end, but about 3 weeks out, a buddy of mine got a boxer's fracture in his hand, and he came to me and he was like, you know, my doctor said I can ride there as long as I don't ride there. And he's like, I know you got a big trailer. He's like, can we hook it up and trailer the bike? And I was like, yeah, we can do that. And we're going to talk about the trailer here in a few minutes. But probably the most important thing that I can tell you about this is to make sure that your bike is in tip-top condition. The bike that you're going to take out there, you need to get that bike, whether you do it yourself or you take it to somebody you trust. You know, I've talked about this before. I'm all about saving money, but at the same time, I do like to spread my money around a little bit. You know, I've got people that I go to all the time for questions about stuff, and it's not fair for me just to go to them all the time and ask them questions without throwing some money their way for some stuff. I got two guys I do that with. So took the big bike, took Fancy over, had her gone through front to back. Okay, and here's a suggestion, a tech tip for doing that. Don't drop your bike off on a Friday and pick it up on Saturday morning ready to ride out to the trip. Okay, even the best mechanics make mistakes. Get your bike to that mechanic 2-3 weeks ahead of time. Get all your fluids checked. Get your tires checked. Get your brakes checked. Make sure that everything on that bike is up to date. Because let me tell you something, and Linda will tell you, we saw a lot of bikes broke down on the way out there.
That is true.
And we saw a lot of trucks broke down on the way out there.
Yep.
We saw a lot of RVs broke down on the way out there. YouTube, I'm going to tell you, this was a trip. Okay, 1,700 miles straight, one way. All right, in the heat, 100-degree plus days. That's going to put a toll on everything that you have. Truck, you're going to be towing something. You need to take that truck out there. You need to get the fluids changed on that truck. You need to get them tires rotated. You need to get it in tip-top shape. Make sure your wiper blades are good. Make sure your tires are good. Make sure your pressure is good. Make sure your fluids are changed. You don't want to be in the middle of somewhere and have a breakdown.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of places out there where we saw 100 miles straight in front of us and 100 miles straight behind us, and to the horizon on this side of us and to the horizon on that side of us. Nothing but sunflower seeds, soybean fields, and corn, and not a house nowhere. And guess what? No cell service. All right. So if you're doing this by yourself and you're pulling this thing, brother, make sure it's good, because at the end of the day, if you break down and you can't call somebody, you can always roll that bike off that trailer and go get help. And Linda, I'm sure will agree with these. Them roads, good God, I've never had my guts nearly beat out of me on some of these roads out here. The expansion joints on them just, I mean, just unbelievable hard stuff. But we're getting a little off topic. We'll talk about that here in a second. Make sure your bike's in tip-top shape. If you're using a trailer, make sure the trailer's in tip-top shape, okay? I got a little video I'm going to show you here right now of this, and we're going to go over the trailer, and I'm going to introduce you to some trailer stuff, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So one of the things I want you to notice, if you can see it, you might not be able to see it, but right now the trailer is slightly higher in the front, hooked to the truck, than it will be when it's loaded. There's a lot of factors that go into trailers and loading a trailer properly and strapping down your load properly and your weight distribution. But one of the things is, unloaded, you want the front of the trailer high, so when you get it loaded correctly, the trailer is level. It's not level with the truck. It's 2 units. People need to understand that. If the trailer was level now, and then we put the weight on it, it would dip the front of the trailer down, dipping down the back of the truck, lifting up the front of the truck, and therefore making for potential steering issues. Does that make sense? The truck needs to be level with the trailer level loaded. They don't have to be level with each other, but they both need to be level. This particular trailer has 4 wheels on it and electronic brakes. It's a 7-foot wide, 14-foot long utility walk-on trailer. And by walk-on, I mean the lift gate will lay down and you can walk up on it, ride your bike up on it, put your 4-wheeler on it, what have you. There's a small battery in this box that gets its power from a 7-pole connector that plugs into the truck. We also have 2 safety chains that hook on each side, and then a dead man's pin. What this dead man pin does, it runs to a plunger right here. So in an instance, if this thing came unhooked and these chains came unhooked, this cable would pull a pin, activating a dead man switch inside this battery compartment that would lock up all 4 wheels and bring the trailer to a stop. It's a great safety mechanism. In preparation of this trip I got a couple of Harbor Freight motorcycle wheel chocks. These wheel chocks are designed to be used on a concrete surface or flat ground to roll your bike up into. And as your wheel hits this and goes in, it locks forward, locking your front wheel in place. Now I can tell you, with the full dresser on here, I drove that thing up here. The moment this locked in, I got off of it. There's a little wiggle room, but she held it up straight and safe, allowing one person to do this and then strap the bike down. Since we were hauling 2, I went ahead and put 2 on here. And as you can see, they're not perfectly lined up. We did that for a reason, so the handlebars would sit back and not hit. Also attached some D-rings front and back, so we would have places to strap the bikes down. And it worked pretty good. The way I got this thing set up, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got it pre-drilled right in the middle for 1. So if I was only hauling 1 bike, I could take this one off, move it over, put the load in the center of the trailer. I'm gonna tell you something, YouTube. I learned a lot about trailers and hauling them. And I did that for a reason. This trailer hooked to that truck hauled 2 bikes almost 1,800 miles one way. And guess what? At the first gas stop, we made one adjustment to the straps. And at that point, the bikes didn't move again until we got to where we were going. Now I do want to point out, using this one on the left side of the bike, that one on the right side of this bike, and the left side of that bike, we put these straps, these D-rings back here to hook to the rear wheels. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you, they was in there tight, but guess what? They didn't touch the edges, they didn't touch each other, and they were right where we wanted them to be at when we got to where we were going. I'm gonna talk to you for just a minute about trailer brakes. There's 2 types of trailer brake controllers out there. There's one that you adjust yourself, and there's another, well, you sort of adjust both of them. Let's take a look at the one up here. This is a CURT, C-U-R-T, Discovery brake system. It has a manual here that you can see that as I squeeze it in, it applies brakes to the trailer only. And then it has 2 adjustment wheels here. One here and one on the back side. And this is plug and play, YouTube. This one's specifically designed for this truck. But let me tell you the cool part about it. It does not have a sensor in it. 2 kinds. One with a sensor, one without a sensor. The one with the sensor has to be mounted in your vehicle perfectly level. Because once you set it and you apply your brake pad, it has a little switch in it that determines how aggressively you're stopping, and then transfers that energy to the electric brakes on the back. But it has to be level, it has to be mounted level. And as you can see in this Dodge, there was nowhere to do that. So I decided to go with this one. This one, it don't even have to be mounted. Once you have it set up correctly, I could have hid it under here. I could have tucked it under there and never touched it again. But the cool part about having it accessible is you can make adjustments on the fly. And what I mean by that is this. If I were to hook up, well, I got it hooked up. If I went to back this trailer up empty, right now it's set on 1.5. If I set it on anything other than 1.5 empty and go to back up, the wheels are going to lock up in the gravel and the dirt. Now, they won't do that loaded, okay? But it allows you, having it mounted allows you to have access to it to make adjustments on the fly. For example, moving it around, testing it around here in the yard, I was doing like 1.5. Once we got the big bike on it, headed to the guy's house, I bumped it up to 2. Once we got his big bike on there and we were headed to Sturgis, I bumped it up to 2.5. Okay? You're just gonna have to play with these things. They're not complicated. You just gotta read and play with them a little bit. Honest to God, the hardest part was finding the plug-in under the dash, because I think Dodge tried to hide it. Don't buy a $3,000 trailer, $60 times 2 for wheel chocks, $15 times 6 for D-rings, and probably $35 worth of stainless steel nuts and bolts to mount this stuff, and then go buy a set of $10 1-inch wide straps. Buy good straps. Trust me, they will make a difference. Linda will tell you, I hate trailering a bike, but there's times when it just has to be done. And I was like a nervous nanny on this trip, because prior to this trip, I had never put a bike on a trailer and it be in the same spot I put it in when I got where I was going. Whether that was a mile or 10 miles or 100 miles. So I spent the money to make it right, especially if I'm hauling somebody else's motorcycle. The one thing that I tell you that I will think made the difference was we upgraded the straps.
Yes.
We went from a 1-inch wide single weaved strap to a 1.5-inch double weaved strap, and they were about $40 a set for 4. All right, but guess what? Like I said in the video, the bike, after the first stop and we made the first adjustments on the strap, the bike didn't move again. It was that simple. Here's something else too. The first time you put your bike on your trailer should not be the morning that you're leaving to go on the trip, right?
Right.
How many times did we put that thing on and off that trailer while we were setting up the wheel chocks?
Oh, right.
And then setting up the D-rings, and then getting the straps. And this is a tech tip too. Once you get your bike strapped on there, use zip ties. Zip tie the excess strap so it's not flying away, and mark them left front, right front, and rear. All right. Now you might say, well, my God, Doc, you ain't got to strap that thing down like you go. Well, let me tell you something, sport. When you're running 90 miles an hour for 12 hours and only stopping for gas, and you're hitting some of these roads out there, it's a good thing we had that rear strap. And here's why. Because the roads, you remember, I can't remember where we was. We was somewhere probably in either Iowa or Missouri. And you could go over, just out of the blue, there'd be a hump in the road. And we quite literally saw, it was either a Ford Explorer or a Chevrolet SUV, small SUV, pulling a camper trailer.
Yeah.
Now, here's a tech tip. Just because you can pull it doesn't mean you should. This thing hit that hump, and when it went down and came down, I swear the front behind us, the front wheels came off the ground on that truck. That's how bad these swamps were. And construction. We left on a Wednesday at noon to put us past the big cities, or getting into the big cities after rush hour.
Right.
And we had about 4 construction zones we had to go through, and we didn't want to go through them during the day. So we timed it so we would miss those and be through those around midnight. And it worked out great. I forgot to mention this. Have a spare tire for it. Have a jack for it. Have a lug wrench for it. How many times you see people going down the road, sitting on the side of the road, and they got a trailer there with the tire off of it and 2 pieces of firewood underneath it, and somebody sitting there guarding it while they go try to find a tire. All right, we bought an extra tire, we bought a hydraulic jack, and we bought a lug wrench. And guess what? We checked the lugs before we left, and we checked them when we got there, and there was 3 that were loose when we got there. We checked them before we left, and there was 4 that were loose when we got back. Oh, last tech tip about the trailer. Write this down, commit this to memory. Every gas stop, check your straps. Right? Check them every time. Now again, after the first adjustment, we were good. But when we started hitting some of those bad spots, yeah, the back wheel wanted to move around a little bit. And you got 2 fat boy bikes up on a trailer, they can get close to each other. But it worked out. Okay, so the trip out there, what we decided to do to keep it on the low T was to plan our stops to sleep at truck stops and rest areas. And because we were doing that, we probably won't do it again.
Right.
At our age, we probably won't do it again.
Sleeping in a truck is not fun.
Not fun at all. At 54 years old, my body likes a nice flat bed and a soft pillow. And on top of that, we had to keep the trucks running to keep the AC going because it was so hot outside. I think most nights it was still in the 90s when we got done. So we were not going to be uncomfortable and hot at the same time.
Right.
So we chose to just be uncomfortable and stay cool. We stopped at Pilot J's and Flying J's, and here's why. They're well lit. There's a lot of movement going on there. They got nice bathrooms. They got showers if you want to take showers. But we left on a Wednesday at noon, and we got just to the other side of St. Louis by 2 o'clock Thursday morning. Yeah, Thursday morning, 2 o'clock. And we slept for 3 hours. Then we got up and we stopped in Murdu, South Dakota, I think, which was about 20 miles east of where we were going. We got there about 9 o'clock that night, and we all pulled out the camp chairs and the coolers, went inside the restaurant, got something to eat, sat in the parking lot for a couple, 3 hours, wind down, got us a little tasty beverage in us, which helped us relax a little bit more, climbed back in the truck, turned the AC on, and slept till the next morning. Next morning, we got up, drove into the campsite around 10 o'clock, and got unpacked, and we'll go into that in a little bit. Bless you. So, I'm going to let Linda talk to you a little bit about everything that we had in the truck and where we had it in the truck, because we had stuff in the back seat to help us on the ride there, and we had stuff in the back of the truck that we were going to need at the cabin that we stayed at. So why don't you talk about how we packed the truck for what we needed while we were driving versus what we had in the back of the truck for the cabin that we were going to stay in and the cabin that we did stay in.
So I guess traveling in a vehicle, going a long distance, you want to make sure that everything's accessible, so that you don't have to stop and pull over every time. So we had a small cooler that had waters in it or Gatorades or something along those lines, and every day we would replenish that with ice and waters and the Gatorades, so those were accessible. I had a huge bag of nothing but snacks, just a whole variety of things, salty, sweets, fruits. We had lots of fruit that was available to us, just to kind of keep things going, making sure that we didn't cramp up. Had bananas and oranges and things like that so that we could stay hydrated. Because one thing I'll tell you, when you're driving a long distance, you never know when that next break is coming, so you kind of are a little apprehensive about how much you want to drink. So it's important to get those fruits and vegetables and things like that in your system so that you don't have to worry about that.
Also medications. If you're taking
Yes.
any medications, or if you're prone to need a headache pill or a back pain pill, put those in that small cooler up front so you can have those accessible. Make sure you have your chargers for your GPS and your tablet and your 2 cell phones and everything that you're going to need to be comfortable on the way there, because the last thing you want to do is have a cell phone die.
Right.
We had some pillows.
Yeah, we took pillows. I took some blankets, just in case we would need them. Like you said, we had to keep the air conditioner running so that we would stay cool, but even at that point you kind of got chilled, so you might want a little blanket. I also took immediate toiletries, something that we could run into the bathroom at these rest stops or at these travel plazas, brush your teeth, change of underwear, that
socks.
kind of thing, socks, just something to help freshen up so that when you got back on the road for another 12, 14 hours, you weren't too nasty. I did baby wipes, things of that nature.
Just something to clean up a little bit with and take the grud off. I mean, you ride in a vehicle for 14 hours, all right? You're going to feel gruddy. And here's your little tip if you want to. Wear comfortable clothing.
Yes.
I wore a pair of jeans that were probably 2 inches too big for me, and the most comfortable pair of shoes I had, and my favorite t-shirt. And you know how things can kind of get bound up down there. Alright, you feeling me, right? When you sit somewhere in a vehicle for 4 hours, imagine trying to do that for 15 hours. Wear loose, comfortable clothing. It will definitely make the difference. Have you shade glasses? Have you contacts? Have a pair of prescription glasses? Take an extra set of contacts with you in case you lose one. Last thing you want to do is get out there and not be able to see. Is that about it for the trip out there?
For the trip out and the trip back, I mean, obviously we practiced the same things on the way back. You know, we had the bag of food, we had the pillows, we had the blankets for on the way back to do the same thing at these travel plazas.
So YouTube, as always, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for coming by the backyard, and ride safe, handle your business, save some money, and